What if Austria-Hungary decided to side with the Allies in World War One? So that would obviously lead to Prussia being alone fighting with the Ottomans, which during this time didn't really end too well. So they either had to fight with Italy, which was already on the side of the Allies, so that was probably least likely. So it was either these three or these four right here. Which obviously Mexico didn't join till like a little later after Germany decided to send the telegram. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so we're gonna start with the shot of Serbia shooting Franco thing, Ferdinand thing, and Russia, instead of siding with the Serbians, Prussia will. Which I think is a little bizarre, but it's whatever makes history work, blah blah blah. But so I'm just gonna make a little highlight real quick. Like, they take that much land from shooting Franco Ferdinand, and the Austro-Hungarians, they push back heavily, trying to say, no, this is, you just shot our leader, we're declaring war. So obviously Russia and Prussia, they're on the same side. So Prussia, instead of siding with Austria-Hungary, would invade a little bit, and so would Russia. So they would invade a little bit into that, which then would cause the British and French to join in, because they didn't want to upset the balance of power here. So the French, they went like probably like somewhere like that, probably. So they went like that. And the Italians, which actually they might be on the side with the Prussians, Russians, and Ottomans. Well, the Ottomans probably will be invading into these such territories, so they're probably like a neutral power trying to gain land, that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of difficult to decide what side the Italians would be on, because the Italians, they didn't want to fight against the overwhelming amount of British and French Navy that was already here. They didn't want that smoke. So it was either gain land that you could get over here, or lose like half of your country and be split back into several states. And I think they would try to risk the state thing. So they would probably take like this much land, maybe, because it'd be difficult to invade into the Alps. Yeah, they So if we continue to move a little bit more into the future, Germany will probably take this much land, and Prussia would take this much probably. And if we're gonna be really nice about it, for the Prussians and Germans, the Romanians will join on their side. The reason why is so that way they can get their old territory they had lost to Hungary, which at this point, it's already gone downhill for all these people. By this point, also, Serbia is gone. The Ottomans have been invading into Bulgaria, because they're like, neutral power stuff, that kind of thing. And the Italians, they're probably heading like down this far, letting, like, the Germans are letting them take this much land. And the French, they've been kind of stopped right here. And the British haven't really done anything to, move against the Prussians, and the Prussians will actually make a desperate move. They will invade into the Benelux? Yeah, Benelux countries, which doesn't really go well for them whenever the British decide to show up. Because they're trying to protect the balance of power, and they don't like it whenever people invade neutral countries when you're already in a major big conflict. So that's not going to end well. So we got this entire thing happening, and they're trying to re-liberate Netherlands. I'm going to have to pull up its color. I'm just going to say this is their color. But they're trying to re-liberate a bunch of the Benelux, which doesn't really go planned as in the original universe, which they also will take over Luxembourg to be able to get a better hold in their front line, which does take a little bit of a shock to the French. Not before they try to make a little bit of a move over here, which eventually does get stopped and pushed back, which they're trying to. This front line, it's hard to say, but I most definitely think that the French are taking over Sardinia. No, whatever this is called. Because I know this up here is Corsica. Yeah, Sardinia. And they're taking over Sicily. They're basically island hopping right now. And the Italians will actually be making the bigger move, invading into their mainland, which already kind of looks like that. There's not a whole lot of, I don't think there's a whole lot of ethnic Italians over here. Probably like somewhere right around there, probably. But yeah. So this would be how much they've gotten so far. And that's when the British start pumping troops from over here. By reminder, this is still uncolonized, some unclaimed territory here. That's what these big splotches are. And I believe what was it? The Berlin Conference. That stopped from the Ottomans collecting all the way over here. No, these are the Ottomans. Oh. That makes me look stupid. But, anyways, there's a little bit of a conflict between the French and the Ottomans, which, to a surprise to these two, the French will accidentally, quote unquote, they will accidentally invade into the Ottomans, their African territory. Which there's not going to be, like, probably not a whole lot of movement down here. Which immediately brings in the fighting between all of these four right here. These three right here. Which then causes 1, 2, 3, 4 countries to be involved. I don't think any of these countries would be involved because, stuff like that. What I do think would happen is the USA would get involved. No. Let me take that back. But I do think most of this land would be taken over due to many disputes between the two. Between Austria-Hungary having claims of ethnic Italians that originally lived here. Which doesn't really end well whenever the Germans also take a little bit of land. So now their front line is acting like that. They're an entirely screwed up country. And let's just say they're not going to end too well. They've taken up this amount of land, And the Ottomans, they're not going to be invading into Austria-Hungary because I think they have more favorable views, except for like down here, a little bit of a dispute. But Greece will invade into the Ottomans because I believe they had like a few holdouts over here somewhere. They had like a holdout like this much, I think. Yeah, it was like in the fall of the Ottoman Empire for sure. But the Greece was like this, and they invaded a little bit into the Ottomans, which the Austro-Hungaries were supplying them, which now causes the Ottomans to be fully involved into this cause, and it's just not going to look pretty for the Austro-Hungarians, which they kind of look like this right now. I'm gonna make this the Serbs. Yeah. This is what the Serbians look like now, and they're looking really refreshed, to say the least. So the French and British will see this. They beg America for help, and the British are including all of their colonies now. Because, mind you, the Russians and Americans, they had favorable views still. So that's still going on, and they're trying to persuade the USA to join. So that won't be happening in for a while. So they managed to almost liberate all of Belgium. They're starting to liberate parts of the Holland or Netherlands. So they've regained all of this land for Belgium, and they're about to start regaining land for Luxembourg. Yeah, Luxembourg. So they're starting to create this amount right here. There's a bunch of troops flowing from here, 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 here. So there's a bunch of troops flowing through there. And they're starting to pull back a bunch of troops right here, which really hurts this front line. It actually pulls them really close to their border. Not fully, though, because the dangers of that. Besides, the Italians would probably back them up. And the French, they're not surrendering immediately. Haha, very funny. But they're not surrendering immediately, sadly. Sadly? Luckily, I mean. So they're now maintaining only one front line, which is starting to fall because they're having to also pull troops to protect their mainland. Which it doesn't really look like it's going to end well for Austria-Hungary and Italy, since the French are kind of right there. Because the British Isles are supporting them, stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. Alright, so the Benelux, they're basically fully revived. They're like that much, probably. Yeah. So Germany is about to get folded again. I'm just going to place their... That's their capital right here for placeholders. But Germany is getting folded, and the communist revolutions over here are starting to uprise again for the first time. They're appearing in major cities over there, blah, blah, blah. Like they're becoming a pepperoni pizza. But they're starting to lose to a civil war, so they're having to pull out, which kind of doesn't really work out well if their front line is starting to look like this. Basically, only having one part of your front line turn into that, and your troops abandon you. You don't want that to happen in your war. And Romania is getting pushed back because of the flow of troops happening from Britain, coming in from over here, flowing into up there, which is causing the Ottomans to have a little bit of trouble right there, and the English are starting to colonize again. Yeah, colonize. They're starting to retake a few bits of land over here. Yeah, they're taking up a bunch over here. they're starting to creep through, because they've already taken Palestinian Israel. So they have Cyprus, they're invading into mainland, and the Ankara right there is right there, like right around the middle of the country. They've taken over the coastal lanes for Iraq. So they've basically blockaded, uh, what was it? Ottomans. Ottoman. Too much. But they're starting to blockade them. They're keeping them contained. Stuff like that, which is causing their economy to go bleh, bleh. And the Hungarians, Austrians are back into invading Serbia, which is doing pretty well for them. They're starting to look like their former self. This is excluding this. But they're starting to push back heavily in this war. So yeah, that's happening. And update on Greece is happening over here. It's causing them to go. They're causing the frig. They're causing the Ottomans to lose a bunch of land, which is starting to cause a few rebels, to say the least. So the Russians, they've left the war completely. Now there's some Polish rebellions happening over here. I'm gonna make this one a little bit darker. There's some Polish rebellions happening over here, which is causing a lot of stuff to happen behind the front lines. Which we already know that Germany loses in the real world, not this fictional scenario. Which Poland, you can kind of see its outline right there, kind of, because you can see right a little bit of land over here is from Poland. Yeah. And the Prussians, you can't really blame them for surviving this long, especially now their only ally, Italy, and the failing ally over here. We don't talk about the Ottomans. But the Benelux, they're basically fully revived, stuff like that. They're revived right there. Basically, all of Luxembourg is revived again. I need to find them color. That's their color there. So they've regained all of the lost countries over here, and they're starting to push into this front line over here, which isn't looking too well. Even the Netherlands is starting to push into Prussia, which isn't a really good look if you're starting to lose stuff that for the invader, obviously. The Belgium is pushing in because of the British, stuff like that. So Germany isn't going to be ending well in this war. So they will probably surrender by this point, because Prussia's monarchy, it was a very smart man, very indeed. He was very strategic, to say the least. And I think they are going to probably make Denmark get like that much. Because I know that this is like modern day right here. I know that. But yeah, I'm going to come up with a peace treaty real quick. Well, I just finished the peace treaty for the Great War or something like that. But so I basically finished Africa except for over here. I'm lazy right now. But this is Austria-Hungary right now. The Russians didn't take any land, but as you can see, they're not communist in this world, due to them only having one front line and Prussia right here, which helped out in their industrialization. They did have to spit out a few satellite states. Not satellite states, few countries, like Finland, for example, which is way bigger in our universe. And we got Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, which looks quite quite bit bigger. And then you got Poland, which is way different compared to the main universe. And then you got Prussia, and then Prussia right here. And then oddly enough, you got a country right here, which turns out is Bavaria. I'm gonna these little things right here. These are symbols for alliances, which still shows that Germany and Italy, their alliance didn't get dissolved. But there's some new ones that appeared, like Netherlands, Britain, and France. And then you got Austria-Hungary and Bulgaria and Greece, which they all border each other right here. I was gonna have Romania and Russia be in one alliance, but I figured that wouldn't be as noticeable. But Turkey, they lost a lot of land, and considering to the previous clip where it showed they had like all of that basically, and like in the real world, Britain, they gained like most of this, but even more due to the Ottomans and Saudi Arabia, which I should probably fix some of this. Which while I'm speaking, uh, go get yourself a water, I guess. I don't know what y'all do, soft drinks, stuff like that. But this is Austria-Hungary's empire colony in Africa, which they only have one. This is Portugal. I think this is Germany's. Because if it is, I'm just gonna hand it over to Britain. If it's not, then it's whoever has this. And Belgium's colony is still here. Spain is existing right here. And Morocco is existing as its own country. And they even got a little bit done here. But it's not looking too good for Spain because they're in their own civil war right now. Alright, if we move up to the French, there's some dignifying details because they used to be like, what, right there? And now they're all the way over here. Which I think they would turn into a monarchy after this. Because the color means nothing, it's just a distinct color between the two, between the other alliances. But I think I could see like a Baltic alliance appearing between like maybe two, like Lithuania and Poland, maybe Latvia in it. I think Estonia and Finland would definitely create their own alliance with the Nordics or Scandinavians. So I think that would be its own alliance of its own. And Turkey even gained a little bit of land over here, even though they lost so much. They gained a little bit because of the ongoing rebellions over here, which had a little bit of Georgia and mostly Armenia, I believe. And then Iran, they get mostly just Azerbaijan over here. So that was pretty good. Okay, and then we also have like this enclave, kind of like in World War One to World War Two, to the Cold War. Which in the Cold War they didn't have it, obviously. But you could probably see another episode or video where I kind of make a World War II scenario of this, because definitely